Okay, good. Yeah, so very warm welcome from me. I'm Kusalasara. Welcome everyone who's in the room, and welcome if you're watching online. Nice to have you here too, so to speak. So tonight we've been exploring some of the teachings or stories from great Tibetan Buddhist called Milarepa. He and Padmasambhava are like sort of hugely influential spiritual teachers of Tibet. Padmasambhava was Indian. He's associated with Tibetan Buddhism. And looking at two books, one's called The Yogi's Joy, The Songs of Milarepa. I'll say a bit more about that in a minute. And then this one's called The 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. So when we designed this series, we thought maybe that's a bit much, let's do 3. So we've narrowed it down. This is the final one. Actually, there aren't 100,000 either. I can't remember how many there are, but I think 100,000 just means lots in this case. Yes. So the many songs of Milarepa. So this book, The Yogi's Joy, is a commentary, and then this book is not written by Milarepa, but written up by his disciples. So Milarepa, who's been to any of the other recent talks on Milarepa? Some of you. Okay, great. Yeah, so we'll do a recap. He was born and lived in Tibet, and in around 10 something AD, and so he's got about 1,000-year legacy. We're still looking at his life and works, and he, as far as we know, he's an actual human being, a real Buddhist teacher. And the world he inhabited, well, I think I suggest that you listen to Akasha Mitra, because he gives Milarepa's life story, which is an extraordinary sort of about turn of a path of darkness turning to a path of light. And filled with black magic and all sorts. So it's a very exciting story. And the world that he lives in the Himalayas, a sort of hostile place to live in a way. And there's all these exciting interactions. So it's as though he's, the stories are filled with ghosts and demons and visions, dreams, symbolism, and fairy. There's a whole thing about fairies. He flies, he appears there, he appears somewhere else, and there's a whole imaginative world even, and he also did exist as a teacher, and we have his teaching. So I say imaginative because that's sort of probably how I can access it. I wouldn't say if he would say it was an imaginative world. He probably experienced these things, and his followers would have taken them very literally, these interactions with ghosts and demons and fairies, etc. Yeah, and the way that he practiced in his maturity. He practiced alone a lot, so he would go to the most remote caves with as little as he could to survive, and meditate, enjoying meditation very, very, very much, very profound states of meditation, undisturbed by the comings and goings of the world. Except he would meet people, so sometimes disciples would find him. He had a few key disciples, he had lay followers, and he had, he would bump into shepherds or robbers, as well as ghosts and demons and etc. He would meet human beings, and we get to explore all these different kinds of human responses that he has to them, and some of them are very funny. So, for example, a robber is in his cave, it's dark, blundering about, and of course Milarepa is a complete renunciate. So he says to the robber, "Well, you'll be lucky if you find anything. I can't even find anything in daylight, so you won't find, you're welcome to it, but you won't find anything. There's nothing here." So there is a great deal of humour in his stories, and And these extensive songs filled with metaphors of nature, Himalayan metaphors of eagles, vultures, the sun, the moon, waterfalls, lakes, it's mountains, it's all woven into his teaching. So very beautiful poetic teaching. So this is what he would do. He'd have a little interaction, and then it's this kind of poetic outburst would come. I have no idea how those songs sounded. I'm not sure if maybe there's a way that people can work that out, but that's how his teachings would sort of condense. He'd have dialogue, but they'd condense in these songs with these beautiful imagery. And reading the songs and the stories of Milarepa, we get to have contact with a mind extraordinarily vast. It's a real privilege, actually, to be able to sort of come into contact with a mind that's much, much greater than ours, in a way that's inviting because of this imagery, this beautiful world of metaphor. Nevertheless, the imagery is enticing. Nevertheless, I certainly wouldn't have got very far with Milarepa without a guide, and so that's why this commentary is so helpful, the Yogi's Joy. So, maybe one more thing to say, that the practice, the tradition and the practices that he was involved with was called the Mahamudra, and one way of translating that is the tradition of the great symbol. So it's a tantric tradition relying on symbolism, and it's characterized by ease and relaxation. So the qualities of ease and relaxation in the Mahamudra meditation tradition are not that of having a jacuzzi or like things going your way. You know, like if everything, sometimes it does happen, doesn't it? Like you make a plan and it happens, and so sort of magically things can go your way. It's not that kind of ease. The ease that's expressed in the Mahamudra is this a blissful response to to not needing anything to go one's own way. Yeah, so a blissful confidence that one's not relying on anything unreliable, and that's the ease. And you can see in this image. This is an image of Milarepa. He's this gesture is his inner listening before singing, and at some point in the evening, come up and have a look at the painting. The way he's sitting, has he got this? Yeah, he's sitting in the same aspect as on my book. This kind of posture, open, relaxed, easy, is demonstrative of his practice. So, the quality of union with ultimate reality, or the way that things really are. There's no tension between how things are and the world that he inhabits. Okay, so we're going to dive into the first story of 100,000 Songs of Milarepa, and the first story is called The Tale of the Red Rock Jewel Valley, and maybe I'll just say something about this story. It's a series of incidents. I mean, it's not really a story, it's just a chapter in a way. It's a series of incidents that probably so Milarepa he's meditating in a cave. He's quite young. He still doesn't have disciples. He's documented realizations sort of happen later. Well, they haven't happened a great deal yet. So he's a disciple who's been sent off to meditate, and that's what he's doing. So if you were on the opposite mountain and you had some binoculars, you wouldn't see these stories. You wouldn't see a great deal going on, and yet they're sort of full of meaning and incident. So basically, what it reminds me of is, maybe it's just happened just now. So people were watching online, watching us, just see a load of people in a room sitting still, but each and everybody here has had their whole kind of inner life of the last 25 minutes of meditation. And maybe some of you sort of connected with the breath and then had this very like deepening, stilling experience. Or maybe some of you have had kind of a few internal dramas. I don't know, can't tell. Maybe your minds have been in all sorts of different places. And it's a bit like that with Milarepa, is that you can't, probably from the outside, you can't see that there's a great deal going on, but all sorts is going on. And it reminds me, for those of you who've been on retreat, on a retreat you have a regular, very regular schedule. And if you ever sort of meet someone and say, oh, how's your morning been, if it's not in silence, or how's the last 24 hours been, everyone's been doing the same. You meditated, you ate breakfast, maybe you chopped some vegetables, you meditated again. And yet, all sorts of things will have happened like this. I realised this, I was walking outside and I saw this amazing sunset, and then before I knew it, a bird flew across. Like, everything becomes really imbued with meaning. And yet, the dog walkers who walk past the retreat centre just think, like, oh, look, there's some quiet Buddhists sort of milling around. Little do they know how dramatic and meaningful it all is. So I think it's a little bit like this with some of the Milarepa stories. So this one's very, I'll read it to you. So what I'm going to do today is just get as far as we can through the stories, and I'm not sure how long that will take. The tale of the Red Rock Jewel Valley, obeisance to all gurus. Once, the great yogi Milarepa was staying at the Eagle Castle of Red Rock Jewel Valley, absorbing himself in the practice of Mahamudra meditation. Feeling hungry, Eagle Castle isn't a castle, it's a cave where eagles probably go. Feeling hungry, he decided to prepare some food, but after looking about, he found there was nothing left in the cave, neither water nor fuel, let alone salt, oil or flour. It seems I've neglected things too much, he said. I must go out and collect some wood. He went out, but when he had gathered a handful of twigs, a sudden storm arose, and the wind was strong enough to blow away the wood and tear his ragged robe. When he tried to hold the robe together, the wood blew away. When he tried to clutch the wood, the robe blew apart. Frustrated, Milarepa thought, although I have been practicing the Dharma and living in solitude for such a long time, I'm still not rid of ego clinging. What is the use of practicing the Dharma if one cannot subdue ego clinging? Let the wind blow my wood away if it likes. Let the wind blow my robe off if it wishes. Thinking thus, he ceased resisting. But due to weakness from lack of food, with the next gust of wind, he could no longer withstand the storm and fell down in a faint. Okay, so all that he appears to have is this cave, and he has a robe, and he has no food, and he has no fuel, and he manages to get some twigs. So these are his possessions. This is his entire estate. His everything that he owns is these twigs and this robe, and he can't hold on to them. And they seem. I mean, if you only own those two things, well, you're going to want them, aren't you? And they seem quite important to me: fuel and clothes. Basic things, and yet he can't hold on to them because of this weather, and he gets frustrated. But he doesn't get frustrated. Well, what's he getting frustrated with? Remembering what's said. His mind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he doesn't blame the weather. That's very un-British. So the frustration is not that he can't hold on to everything. The frustration is his own grasping. So this very small incident reveals, but remember that he's been meditating, he's been in profound meditation. This very small incident reveals something about the nature of his mind, and his real wish to not hold on to ego clinging, to his real desire to subdue it. And, well, he relinquishes then, doesn't he? With that realisation, he says, let the wind blow my wood away if it likes, let the wind blow my robe off if it wishes. And he ceased resisting. And imagine that such a small sort of practical, I don't know, basic kind of daily chore going wrong reveals offers an occasion for insight. Yeah. So, well, everything, because he doesn't materially is basically fallen apart. That his whole plan for the afternoon has fallen apart. Maybe that's what we can just talk about now. Let's get into, how long have we got? Let's get into threes and just see if you've got any reflections yourself of when something hasn't gone your way, when a plan has failed, and that it's revealed something of more interest than the. Does that make sense? When you've managed to get a bit of wisdom, in fact, from something not going according to plan, and it might be, that sometimes these things are very dramatic, like all of the things that we've lined up in our lives, that we were hoping for, that society seemed to tell us were the things that we do line up, and it just sort of falls apart. Or it might be something smaller. I remember on solitary retreat once. This is a very small incident. Again, I was staying in a caravan on a Welsh hillside, and there was a jar of Horlicks that someone else had left there, and I didn't have any sweet treats with me. So I was like, oh great, Horlicks. And I've been there a few days. And I think, this is probably, anyway. But it all hardened in the bottom of the jar, and I got really involved in like digging it with a spoon. I was like, going to get some lumps of Horlicks out. And I got so involved that I just like jabbed the jar, and the whole thing broke. And it was like, it's sort of embarrassing, even though there was no one around for miles. But it was just one of those things of like, oh my goodness, like what am I doing? Like, I'm completely focused on my task, and it seemed to become a symbol for how my mind can just really grip on things, and not care about the consequences, not just care on like over focusing on one thing and not care about not be willing to look at the broader context. Yeah, so that's a very small thing, but there might be it might be sort of bigger, more serious things that have shown you this. So let's just get into threes and see if anything comes from that little story. Okay, good. So just before the tea break, you were all deep in discussion, and I just thought it'd be nice to hear a bit from you all about how that went. The question I set was, have things fallen apart? Have plans gone awry? And when that's happened, has there been a time when it has opened up something, like a little insight about yourself, where it's revealed something? It seemed like you all had lots to say. So my question to you now is, what was it about that situation, or maybe there were things in common when you were all talking that meant that you saw things in a new way? What were the qualities that enabled that sort of seeing? Might have to think about that a little bit. Yeah, Thomas.
The main one for us is that you just can't control everything. You can try, and you can sort of, you'll fail eventually, and then at some point it's better to just, accept that you just can't control it.
What? So that's always true, whether you've had a disaster or not, right?
Yeah.
Like, what was it that enabled you to see that you can't control everything?
Well, especially like after the fact, there's just really no point in in holding on to, if it had gone this way, if it had done that instead, or being frustrated or angry with yourself. There's like, I don't know, for all of us in our examples, there was a moment where you're like, oh gosh, yeah, just can't do anything. Just can't do anything about that. And I don't know, that allows you to sort of sit with it, and we enjoy whatever is happening. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks very much, Thomas. Yeah.
I was just going to say, for me, it's like I reached a point of suffering. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And something needs to shift. And so it was like a giving up. It was like I need to get away from this suffering.
Yeah.
And then it was like I can actually let go.
So something somewhere there was a change in perspective or something.
Something like that. Yeah. I don't know sort of what the point was, but it's sort of like I can't continue with this. Something needs to change, and it's like I don't know. It's like the dukkha was like sort of I don't know, pressed so far against me. It's like I need to shake out of that somehow. And
in that, did you? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to. Was it that you realised rather than keeping changing externals, that something had to change within you, or that you had to take yourself out of a situation, or like where did the change need to happen?
Yeah, the change definitely had to come from within, because I knew that externally I can't do anything about the external. I can change my attitude internally.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks very much. Anyone? Yeah.
It links a little bit to what has just been said, and it's sometimes also after I've experienced that, I've used it as a comforting thought sometimes, this idea that you can't control things, which means that those things don't exist. Like that perfect reality didn't happen, it simply doesn't exist. And it helps me to think about that, to think, I cannot change it because it doesn't, this plan B did not happen, or plan A did not happen. So it's like realizing that it's going over and over and over again. It's going over and over again on something that never existed. So.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Like it was just a fiction, a projection into the future.
Yeah.
And even if things have gone right, as we imagine them, they're not the same as the future projection.
Yeah. Thought that I often maybe it would have gone in a certain way, but then it would have still taken it also different direction. So it's the picture that is in our minds simply doesn't exist.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thanks very much. There was a hand up at the back. Yeah, hi.
Hi. So for me, it was a point where I realized the sensations in my body were not helping me. So I was very fixated on having a certain kind of result. Because of that, I was just creating something that was kind of like making it very difficult to get there to begin with. So I was confronted with frustration and just kind of like overwhelmed and the pressure of getting it done in the way that I wanted, at the moment that I wanted, and then I had to stop and for a moment just realize, no, hang on a minute, like I can either continue like this, and maybe eventually I will get there with these sensations and emotions and feelings, or I can connect back to the intention that initially started the thing that I'm creating, and just kind of like letting go of the result, just like doing it from enjoyment and the real intention behind it.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, and then what happened when you had that realization?
Took a pause, went for a walk, had something nice to eat, came back to it, and it flowed in like half an hour.
Right. Yeah, good, thanks. That's lovely too. Yeah. Well, over here somewhere. Yeah, hi.
Well, for me, it's just realizing that, like, if you're clinging to something, you realize that all my behaviors are like completely pointless. Like, caring about it so much to the point where it's like I'm spending so much energy on it, and then when it goes wrong, you're like, oh shit. But then also you're like, there's no point in me caring about this anymore. And then you're like, wait, why did I even care about it in the first place? it wasn't even making me happy caring about it.
Ah, yeah.
Something like that.
And what do you think helped you to see that? The reason I'm asking that question is because sometimes it just seems like simple, like, oh, well, of course it was causing me suffering, so of course I had to change. But it's not like everybody in the world has come to that conclusion. You know, there's a lot of not changing tracks. I'm just wondering, like, these little openings are really like treasure.
It's just realizing, like, I would just think of a way to, like, change the situation, and then I would, like, that's not going to do anything. And then think of another way to change the situation, that's not going to do anything. And then just keep thinking about it, and it's like, there's nothing I can really do. And then thinking about it, like, and then just kind of accepting it, and then being like, even if the situation happens, like, nothing is bad. Like, I'm still, like, not dead.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay. Maybe just something worth savouring about these. And sometimes we have these little glimmers, and then we forget them. And sometimes these little insights become a way that we orientate ourselves and become more and more how we live. And in a way, that's the choice that we have as Buddhist practitioners, to use them to inform our lives. Many people have probably had little realizations in the history of the world, but it's whether you carry on, whether you sort of decide to choose that as, well, just kind of, what am I trying to say? I think to let that become wisdom, we have to keep returning to it and keep using it, that perspective, over and over again, or letting that perspective unfold, not just apply it to that situation, but to bring it more broadly to other patterns that we might fall into, or like the way that we view ourselves and our lives. These little or big, actually, realizations they're fertile for much longer than we possibly realise. So I'd like us to carry on exploring. I don't think we're going to get as far as I wanted to, but this story, there's a couple of things that I think we can look at in terms of this story, the symbolism in it, which I hope then at least we'll get to the beginning of the next story. So what we've got is we've got Milarepa staggering around in a storm, trying to pick up twigs, trying to hold his robe on. It's quite comic, isn't it? Like, the minute you imagine yourself into that, like, we might not have done it with twigs and robes, but we've been there in some, metaphorically or sort of physically somehow, of like forces are against us. We're trying to hold on to one thing, we keep dropping it because we're trying to grasp another thing at the same time, sort of staggering around. And again, it's really important to remember that in this story, these are his only worldly possessions, yeah? So as humble as they are his worldly possessions. And I think what's being indicated, because he says this himself, I'm still not rid of, even though I've been practicing, I'm still not rid of ego clinging, because he sees himself grasping here and foolishly against this force of this wind, which is overpowering. He's grasping one thing and grasping another thing, and it's not working at all. Yeah, so these humble things become symbols of all of our worldly desires, actually, and this is what's being pointed to. The insubstantiality, the fact that the minute we grasp something, well, not even maybe not the minute, but the things that can't last, we can't actually grasp them. They turn to dust eventually. So his training kicks in here, and it kicks in very sort of well, it doesn't take him long for that to happen. He doesn't think of it in another way other than it's his own mind and his own frustration with his Dharma practice. And immediately he lets go. So he immediately stops resisting. And I thought, particularly the robe. So what happens is the robe blows away. And so, like, he's now got no clothes on. It's windy. He's got no clothes. He might or might not be holding some twigs. That's his situation. We've all been there. What do you think the robe might represent? Let's look into the metaphor of this. His security, yeah. In what way?
Keeping warm, covering you.
Yeah.
You feel sort of covered.
Yeah, great. So it's protection.
Enclosed.
Yeah.
Nothing can get me.
Yeah. So it's something between him and the rest of the world. Yeah. Enclosed. Anything else? Like
Comfort.
Comfort. Mhm. What? Yeah.
Yeah.
His ego.
His ego. So say more about that. Why is his robe? It's just a tatty old, smelly old bit of cloth. Why is that his ego?
He had the realization that him struggling with both of them and then letting it go. He was realizing that he was struggling with his ego.
Mm.
So allowing it to let go in that moment could represent him allowing his ego to be kind of stripped away from himself.
Yeah.
And he's just there himself.
Yeah. I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. Let's just go into this a bit more. I just think about rather than his clothes. Like, what do your clothes represent? I don't think we only think about our clothes in terms of comfort, especially not in fashionable East London.
It's like a persona.
Persona, yeah. Say more about that.
Like how you want other people to perceive you.
Yeah.
How you like the image you want to put out to the world.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Anything else?
I think going back to the security, I think it's more of a kind of almost as if a resistance to change. You're scared of, without it, you're out of your comfort zone. You don't embrace things like what would happen if I was naked? What would happen in that situation? Things like impermanence. I mean, I really I never ever really understood impermanence or meditated on it until it's become a really big value to me, and I just think for me that's what
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so security and our personas, what we put out into the world. Ange. Yeah.
Like his self-identity.
Yeah.
When I think of like what I choose to wear, it's not so much what I'm thinking about. I guess sometimes I think if it looks nice to other people, but it's more like what I like and like my vibe, I guess, my identity.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's very much that, isn't it? Thomas.
It's also like shame, because you when you're naked, you're exposed or something, but clothes help conceal you, and there's this sort of I don't know, shame involved.
That's really good. Yeah, hold that thought. Let's get one more from you.
Perhaps, and it links two things: the fact that it's a kind of a fixed projection of your identity, in the sense it doesn't change. The clothes remains a piece of cloth. So, and it's a kind of a projection of how you see yourself that doesn't mutate.
I think that's right. Yeah, like we can be having any different kinds of thoughts, but we're sort of this is who I am. These are the clothes that I wear. Yeah. So Thomas made a really good point about shame as well. So we wear clothes for protection, warmth, comfort, fashion, identity, but also as Adam and Eve, the story of Adam and Eve tells us, to go naked is such a taboo, And I think what clothes do is also distinguish us from animal kingdom. So they make us look civilized. They conceal the animal side of us. Yeah. So that's clothes. So that all of that is just blown away in the wind, and he stops being concerned about that. And so what's left is someone naked, so not protected against the weather, not protected. Well, there's no comfort. There's no sort of snuggling up. That's not possible. This kind of this kind of the identity also unprotected. This kind of nakedness again in relation to reality, to much more metaphorically. He's now uncovered. He's undefended. And perhaps that means that he's able to see things more clearly. It's often in the later stories of Milarepa. Sometimes he's clothed and sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's a naked ascetic, and that was taboo in those times as well. In the way that we probably wouldn't allow you to come into the shrine room if you had forgotten your robe, so to speak. It was very, very taboo. So it's a radical thing, and this is the beginning of that. He's undefended, and he's free of shame. He's then innocent. He's innocent. He's got this quality of innocence that he's not. He's not needing to protect the world from the animal self as well. He's not needing to define himself as a human being against animals. He's confident in who he is in his skin. Yeah, he doesn't need to do anything other than that. In a later song, he says where people are a bit shocked about his nudity, he says, "I've forgotten worldly shame." So this quality, natural, innocent quality, comes through. Yes, gosh, there's so much symbolism to go into. Maybe I'll just talk a little bit about his mindfulness. Well, what is it, this quality that enables him to respond so with such alacrity to this difficult situation, like dharmic responsiveness, we could call it. So he's had a very, very disciplined training. If you haven't heard the story, like it sort of almost killed him. It was because he had such weighty bad karma. He's very, very disciplined. His teacher was like extremely tough on him, and it was needed. So he's been practicing and got a certain gone a certain way in his meditative life, and the practice means that he can see this so quickly is the practice of mindfulness. And I think mindfulness sadly has become a little bit of a tame word. I mean, it's great that mindfulness is so available to us in the world now. It's become a bit reduced, whereas what the Buddha taught about mindfulness is that the practice of mindfulness can lead to our minds opening up to the total vastness of the mysteries of the world, of the cosmos. Yeah, so it can help us to relax when we get social anxiety. It can help us stay well day to day. And the practice of mindfulness can blast open our identity and allow us to become Buddhas. That's the range. And this, so careful what you start out on. So this is what he's able to observe. He's in a very sensitive state. Remember, he's been meditating. He's in a sensitive state, and he's able to sort of observe the symbolism of everything around him. Remember, the Mahamudra can be translated as a great symbol. So Maha being great. So he's sensitive, and his mind is in a very subtle state, so he can see the meaning behind the appearances very, very well. So maybe I'll read a little bit from the commentary. Our teacher who wrote the Yogi's Joy, Bhante Sangharachita, says that Milarepa's sustained awareness of subtle mental processes have enabled him to detect the arising of the fetter of self-view. So this is in this incident. And that's how we were talking about his clothes, the ego clinging to his clothes, and the delusion that he is a fixed, separate entity, even as he is grasping desperately at his few remaining possessions, his robe and a few sticks of firewood. And Milarepa's mindfulness consists in seeing how, when the senses come into contact with their objects, any one of the hindrances may arise. And once we are able to refine consciousness to the extent that we can be aware of these subtle mental comings and goings, we only have to understand deeply enough the significance of what we see to take the appropriate action. So everything's becoming imbued with significance. His spiritual life, his day-to-day life, everything is becoming imbued with significance. And Bhante talks about mindfulness requiring every little bit of striving that we can muster. And then he also says something, this next passage is really nice. He says, this kind of is as much can be asked of anybody. We cannot be expected to be perfect all the time, or even much of the time. All that we are invited to do is stay awake, to keep watch over ourselves, especially with respect to small, seemingly insignificant things that we do or say or think or feel, and to take the implications of what we notice. So that's really nice, isn't it? We don't have to be perfect, because that's like hard work, isn't it? And is very much about a future projection of ourselves, and probably not possible. But we are invited to stay awake and to pay attention or keep watch over ourselves, especially with respect to small, seemingly insignificant things that we do or say or think or feel, and take in the implications of what we notice. The task is to recognise what your observations tell you about yourself, then to do whatever you need to do to adjust your attitude and to bring it to more into line with the way things are. So that's what the practice of mindfulness is really, Where have we got to in the story? What else do I want to say about it? Maybe I also want to say point out the symbolism of the storm. I love weather in novels and plays and things. It's usually got a meaning, hasn't it? Other than it's just weather. It very often kind of heightens situations or emotional drama. So it's definitely doing that in this instance. And so we have this storm, and I think it's represented. We had a windy day, didn't we? When was the windy day? A Saturday, Storm Amy, apparently. It was noisy, and going out in it was like very lively. So everything was sort of churning and alive. And this storm, it represents the chaos really of the world and all of its affairs, the world and all of its affairs, all of the pushing, the pulling, the kind of almost the violence of all our desires, and the fact that we really, really can't control them. It's not calm, it's not peaceful, it's not something that we can be satisfied with. So this storm is the storm of all of our desires, our cravings, the things that we're obsessed with, and all of the things that we can't bear, the things we want to push away, that we dislike or hate. All of that is represented in this storm. and him grasping at his few worldly possessions. The next thing that happens is that he faints, which is also interesting. So the story says, that paragraph. The next gust of wind, he could no longer withstand the storm and fell down in a faint. And I had a few thoughts about that, which I think, I'll just suggest. Well, one very interesting thing about the word Bodhi, which the word Buddha comes from. So Bodhi comes, the roots of it are coming round from a swoon. Yeah. So Bodhi, the Buddha awakening, coming round from a swoon. So this coming round from unconsciousness. So Milarepa, he has this insight, and then he goes unconscious very quickly. Actually, I don't know. I just said very quickly, but it doesn't say how long actually. When he came to, the storm was over. So after falling into a faint, the storm was over. High up on the branch, he saw a shred of his clothing swaying in the gentle breeze. The utter futility of this world and all its affairs struck Milarepa, and a strong feeling of renunciation overwhelmed him. Sitting down on a rock, he meditated once more. So he goes unconscious after this big realization, and when he wakes up again, the storm, this symbolic storm, is over, and everything's peaceful. His robe's up there. What was the point of grasping it? What was the point of trying to keep it on? What was the point of it in the first place? All of his craving for that robe has completely gone. All of the tusslings of the ego, as represented by the storm, they've completely gone. So this faint and then coming to represents this kind of new clarity, a bit like a dawn after a dark night of the soul or something. And he has this response that's very natural, that comes with this new clarity. It says, remind us, it says, the feeling of renunciation overwhelmed him. So it's not that he decided to renounce, or that he thought, I'd better renounce. It came, it's almost like the feeling of him overwhelming him is almost like despite himself, perhaps. It just came to him. And this is a big point in Milarepa's life. It's a deepening of his renunciation, of his detachment from worldly things, which the more positive way to describe that is that he finds more freedom, more spontaneity, more of this ease of and bliss of practice that was described by the Mahamudra. So what's his response to that? Well, he sits on a rock and meditates. He's got this new peaceful mind. He's not hungry anymore. You remember at the beginning of the story, he was looking for some food and some warmth. All of that desire's gone. So he sits on a rock and meditates. Okay, so I'm going to just say one more incident. While he's meditating, what happens next is also related. So he's naked, remember, and he looks over the valley, and in the distance there's some clouds, and he starts to think about his teacher, who is probably in the valley behind the clouds. So he says, soon a cluster of white clouds rose far away to the east, and below this bank of clouds lies the temple of my guru, the great translator Marpa. And at this very moment, he and his wife, he was very fond of his wife, who was very kind to him, must be preaching the doctrines of the Tantra and giving initiations and instructions to my brother. So he has this vision of what it's like in the temple. His teacher's wife, and all of the people he practiced with, so a whole bunch of people his age roughly, who he used to practice with. He's very fond of. So remember, he's on his own. He's now newly naked. He's undefended from his emotions, from loads of things, and he has this yearning for his teacher. He can't believe how lonely he feels. He's like overwhelming feeling for wanting to see his teacher. His eyes fill with tears. This unbearable longing arose in him and in his heart, both for his teacher and his Dharma brothers, his practiced brothers. What this makes me think of is we don't usually want to feel longing and loneliness. So he's suddenly realizing compared to them, they're like, he's got this idea, they're all happy practicing together, like getting initiations, chanting mantras, eating some nice Tibetan food, being looked after by his teacher's wife. They're all together. There's them and there's him. So he's like, he can see this group of people in his mind's eye, and he's completely outside of it. So he's got this longing to be part of the group again, and it's really painful. Before that, he's been too preoccupied with this wind, the bliss in his meditation, his insight. But now he's completely undefended from it. He's got space really to feel this loneliness. It was interesting. Earlier this year, I had an experience, not particularly of loneliness, but I was ill for a few months, and that meant that I couldn't do the things that I was normally doing. So I had a very peaceful life. I did much less, which I have to say I enjoyed. But the other thing that happened was I couldn't eat very much, so it was as though the effect on my body was as though it was fasting. And I used to wake up feeling extremely bright sometimes. If I wasn't like in a bout of illness, I'd feel extremely bright. And then I'd have like quite strong emotional responses to different unprocessed things in my life, like different relationships. I had a much stronger desire to meditate than I normally would. And I think there was a certain kind of nakedness to my experience then, that I wasn't well enough to go to design my life, actually. I wasn't well enough to go about doing the things that make me, that kind of, I couldn't assert myself in the world, I couldn't make myself feel useful. All of that was gone away. I couldn't eat very much, so I couldn't use food as a distraction. And it made me, the whole thing wasn't that pleasant, but there were these quite interesting insights. And we do this on solitary retreat as well, or going on retreat. Like, that's part of the reason that we simplify our lives to go on retreat, is to just allow things in that we normally protect ourselves from. Does that make sense when I say sort of allow things in? Yeah. And we don't need to invite them, we don't need to, like when we're in that kind of state, we don't need to directly explore them. They just arise. The things that need to happen, they just arise. So this happens. He becomes very, very, he suddenly has space to feel existentially alone. And he has a vision of his teacher, actually, who sort of comes in a blaze of rainbow clouds and glory, whether it's a vision or his teacher magically appearing before him. I don't know what the mechanics of all these things are, but his teacher gives him loads of confidence, and he reminds him of his practice. So he's feeling existentially alone, and his teacher says, "Come on, you've done all this practice. These are the things you've done. Have you forgotten everything? Have you forgotten?" And Milarepa gets this huge burst of confidence, which I think we can also take more. It's quite easy to overlook the little incidents in these stories. And I think with Buddhist practice, it's very easy to overlook the efforts that we've put in The Buddha, I'm often saying this, the Buddha told us to reflect on our own virtues. We're so easily thinking about what we can't do, like and I struggle to speak kindly when I'm in a mood. I struggle to sit still in meditation. All of the things that we can't do. But what a teacher says is, what a good teacher does is say, this is what you can do. Remember that and use it in any situation. It's again these little moments of wisdom that you might have had in the past. You've done that before. You can do it again. You know enough to keep practicing. We don't need to know very much Dharma at all. That's what Bhante says. We just need to apply it, and that will naturally deepen our understanding.